Seconds. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's council meeting. 10 years ago today, Joe Cox's murder shocked the nation, but in the days that followed, people responded not with fear, but with something Joe believed in deeply: connection. Neighbours came together, differences were set aside, communities chose unity over division. That response revealed something Joe lived and fought for every day: that we are stronger when we come together, that politics can be respectful, and that we have far more in common than that which divides us. I would like to invite all here present to pause for a moment and reflect on what brings us here to this chamber, and how through our own work we can honour the memory not only of Joe Cox MP, but also Sir David Amos MP, through listening, talking and treating one another with respect, even when we disagree. Thank you. Before we formally commence this evening's business, can I please remind all members of the following? Can all mobile phones be kept on silent or turn them off during the meeting where possible? Please remain focused on the topics being discussed and do not repeat points which have already been made. Please show respect to other councillors, avoiding interrupting, and respect the position of the Lord Mayor. Please indicate if you wish to speak, and I will then call you at the appropriate time. Any members wishing to raise a point of order which relates to an alleged breach of a standing order or a statutory provision, please specify which standing order or statutory provision they consider has been broken. These should be addressed to myself as chair of this meeting, and I will seek advice as necessary. Members should not seek responses directly from officers themselves. Any personal explanation must be confined to some part of a former speech which appears to have been misunderstood in the debate, and members are reminded that if they do leave the chamber during the consideration of an item, they will be unable to take part in the vote on their return. Please feel free to request a comfort break if needed, and we'll adjourn at an appropriate time, but I will also monitor the time as we go to fit one in if it is needed. And as a final reminder for everyone, please be aware that the proceedings are being recorded and live streamed online tonight. So make sure you're using your microphones as well. I'd like to, at this point, draw everyone's attention to item number 12 on the agenda, overview of General Fund Revenue Budget 25-26, Quarter 4. A revised report was published today as the Council's financial position and earmark reserve position has changed, and the recommendations have been updated to reflect these changes. There are paper copies available, I understand, from Democratic Services if anybody needs one of those now. Thank you. Thank you. As chair of this meeting, I consider this to have been a matter of urgency given the financial details changed since the original publication, and the director will explain this further at the appropriate point in the agenda. So we now move on to agenda item 1. The first item relates to the minutes of the previous council meetings held. Firstly, I move the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 24th of March 2026 to be approved as a correct record by those who are in attendance, which starts on page 5 of your pack. I now move the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 7th of April 2026 to be approved as a correct record by those who were in attendance, starting on page 11. And lastly, the minutes of the annual council meeting held on the 20th of May 2026 to be approved as a correct record by those who are in attendance, starting on page 19 of your packs. Members who were present, can I confirm that those are an accurate record of those meetings? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 4. No, that's all right. It's item 2, which is declaration of interests. Any members having any disclosable pecuniary interests that relate to business on the agenda that they have not already been included in the register of interests, please declare them before any discussion takes place on any item. Thank you. Moving to item 3, exclusion of press and public, and I can confirm there are no part 2 items on the agenda this evening. The next item is item number 4. I was getting too excited to talk to you about some official communications, I do apologise. Since our appointment, both my deputy and I have been busy attending a wide range of community and civic events, such as the University Employment Awards, the Devon County Show, and hosting my first charity coffee morning. Over the next month, we will be attending Armed Forces Day on the 20th of June, followed by Windrush celebrations at Positive Lights Festival on the same day. Any of you who are not travelling to Twickenham to support the Chiefs, we would love to see you there. And we'll also be continuing the ancient celebration of Lammas Fair on July 9th, which again would be great to see members at. Additionally, Lucy is looking forward to watching the Northcote Theatre's production of Daphne and hosting the next charity coffee morning here at the Guildhall, which is on June 25th. I am looking forward to the opening of Custard Town at the beginning of July, and wishing the best of luck to teams taking part in the race across Devon, which leaves from Cathedral Green at 6 o'clock on July 18th. We now move to agenda item 5, which offers opportunities for members of the public to submit questions in advance. And we do have some questions. There's three questions. 4 questions also. Yes, thank you. Members of the public, we have a maximum of 15 minutes for questions, and although I'm sure we should get through that, you may want to be mindful of supplementary questions, ensuring that it will give everybody the opportunity to ask their questions afterwards. And please remember that supplementary questions should relate directly to the answer that has been given and not a second separate question. Can I please invite Colleen?
Thank you, I'm here to talk about Home Farm, Pinhoe. Residents have received no funding support from any authority and are expected to self-fund remedial sewer and drainage works. As residents must use the correct legal mechanism, what assistance and guidance will Exeter City Council provide to help them navigate this process and ensure works are carried out lawfully?
Thank you. Leader, are you responding?
Councillor Patrick will answer this one.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your question of bringing this issue to council. I was obviously very concerned to hear the situation at Home Farm, and I know that the ward councillors, Jakia, Duncan and Molly, have been working closely with the community to resolve concerns. Likewise, ECC officers have also been supporting residents as best they can over this unfinished infrastructure. However, residents are advised to contact South West Water concerning the legal mechanisms for that unfinished sewer and drainage works, as they are the relevant statutory undertaker for the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen, did you have a supplementary question?
Yeah. South West Water, you're referring me to them. Our ward councillors from South West Water were supposed to meet in January. We were promised a meeting that we would be supported by Exeter City Council. That meeting has been cancelled, and with no prospect of another meeting in place, with pretty much the same answer you've just given me, that Exeter City Council are clearly just washing their hands of us.
Did you want to answer, Rita?
Yeah, thank you for flagging that. We are trying to progress this meeting, I understand, and as I would imagine we've got your contact details, so we can make sure that you're kept up to date. You are obviously front and centre of those. So it's something that we are trying to facilitate South West Water. It's an ongoing process.
Am I allowed to answer?
No. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our second question is from Patrick.
Good evening, Lady Lord Mayor. My question, with reference to the planning application 19/0255/Res, that's Home Farm, as the local planning authority, what can Exeter City Council do to work with South West Water to secure the fixing of the drains and sewers on the estate?
Thank you. Councillor Patrick, is that yours again?
Thank you also for your question. Sort of with reference to my previous answer, really. ECC are not responsible, as you know, for the drains and sewers on the estate. We have been working with South West Water to help them understand the planning history of the site and the status of conditions and the S106 obligations to assist them in fulfilling the statutory duties. And as we've just heard, we are continuing to work towards that meeting with them.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question that is related directly to the answer that has just been given?
Thank you, Lady Mayor. In light of the drainage and sewage issues experienced by residents of Home Farm, what specific changes will Exeter City Council make, working alongside South West Water, to ensure that future developments are not permitted to proceed without sufficient assurances, so residents aren't left paying financially for the systematic failures by authorities and agencies?
Councillor, I don't feel that requires an answer. That wasn't a supplementary question relating specifically to the answer that was given. That's now talking about things in the future. So I would suggest you contact the councillor by email, unless you do want to respond.
Yeah, actually, that was going to be my response. Please, could you email in, because that's something that I would like to investigate further and respond to in detail. So if we could have that correspondence outside rather than give you a pat answer, that would be great. So
Okay.
I'd much rather investigate that further. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Just a little verbal suffice. Some people will tell you I'm not much of a lady. Thank you. Our next question comes from Franco.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. With the developer now insolvent, leaving green spaces and playgrounds unfinished at Home Farm, what options are available to complete these works? Residents already face the cost of repairing sewers and drains. Does the council expect residents to also fund the completion and upkeep of these community spaces?
And Councillor Patrick again. Thank you.
And thank you for your question. So the application 16/1576/OT was granted following the refusal of the application 13/4802/OET and the subsequent appeal allowing the development. So that's the history of this. The legal agreement accompanying the planning permission 16/1576/OUT put the responsibility for maintaining the informal open space and play area onto the developer. And that is a common approach. It's been operational policy for the last 15 years or so. Local authority budgets have been reduced following changes to the way they've been funded nationally. So it's that kind of switch in funding. ECC have occasionally adopted public open space in exceptional circumstances with a commuted sum from the developer to support maintenance for a set period of time. So there's that kind of ongoing commitment still from the developer. So, although adoption could be considered in principle, without that secured commuted sum, to cover that ongoing maintenance, it's not likely to be feasible under current financial constraints. Obviously, what we're hoping for is a sort of a resolution from external stakeholders on this.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question which is directly related to the answer that Councillor Patrick has given?
Yes, I do. So Burrington's estate paid over 1.3 million in SIL contributions. If residents are not entitled to even a small portion of that funding to complete the unfinished green spaces and playgrounds, what alternative funding sources are available and who will the council work with to secure them, given that previous communications have gone unanswered?
Thank you. Thank you for flagging that. Actually, the SIL contributions are on the agenda today. So that's something that's going to be discussed later. It's a valid question. Allow me to investigate and come back to you. And again, I will come back to you on that one. And we'll look at those options. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our final question comes from Mr. Cleesby.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. What plans does the leader have for the council to help restore public trust in politics and in politicians?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Some people may think I asked Peter Cleesby to ask me this question, but I certainly didn't. I think the moment to reflect about Joe Cox was important. It talks about the general discourse of politics at this moment. For some of us who've been in this chamber a long time, and in the view of some too long, it's never been such a time as it is now for the public discourse and what I regard as politics of grievance, Peter. It's the politics of grievance we have to deal with. The online abuse, if you care to look at it, the keyboard warriors. I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to talk to I will talk to the chief executive, but I can't, I could ask, the plan could be to ask the public, could you be nice? Could you be a bit more courteous to people? I could ask all of that. But as for plans to restore public trust in our politics, we've got we all sign up to the code of conduct. We're all expected as councillors to act in a certain way. We try to answer how we can. It's not always easy sometimes. We try our very best. We are not professional politicians in that sense. Yes, we get an allowance, but we are not full-time politicians. Many of us have got proper jobs. We get on with our lives. We have community interests, and we try our very best. It is a shame that it's come to this at this moment in time, Peter. I feel sure the politicians in this room, we all have our moment of a little bit of banter, and that's perfectly fine. I think we try to, I know we do not abuse one another. We may be critical of one another, and there's nothing wrong in that. And as you said, Lord Mayor, it's perfectly all right to disagree, but there is no need for any of us to be disagreeable.
Thank you. Did you have a supplementary
Yes,
question?
thank you. I'm grateful as always to the leader for his response. Does he agree, however, that there's a major omission in what he said, which is the response of his party to the election results? After all, 78% of those who voted did not vote Labour, and yet here they are in charge. The vote share highlights, well, I won't go through that, but let's say the Greens got 57. All right.
Sorry, Mr. Cleesby, it needs to be related to the answer that the leader gave.
It is, yes, because the leader, I was expecting the leader to say something. The leader set out a programme for trust, okay? This is one of the most important failures in restoring trust imaginable.
I can be very quick. Yes, you're right. And look at the figures in 2024. The majority of people in Exeter voted Labour, Peter. In 2025, they did. We've got an electoral system in this city where we go in thirds. You have to respect those councillors who were elected in 2024, who served their term until 2028, as with 25 until 29, as for this year. And that's how we work and how we operate. You cannot rewrite the rules as you go along. Thank you, Peter. I'm happy to meet with you for a cup of coffee and our Jantianos, as we do sometimes, and thrash this out with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you to all of the members of the public for bringing up questions. Our next item of business on the agenda are minutes of the various committees of the council which have been held since we last met. Can I please remind all members that the relevant chair or representative will present the minutes of their meeting en bloc and will then ask if members have any questions raised on matters which have been resolved. Please also be aware that some of the minutes are being presented by the new committee chairs and they may not be able to answer the questions that you raise. If you are raising a question, please indicate which point in the minutes or page number you are referring to before commencing with your question. And questions for committees, including scrutiny, should be directed to the chair and not to portfolio holders. Can I ask members not to repeat questions which have already been answered at these committees or are awaiting answers outside of the committee? And in respect of any recommendations, there will be an opportunity for debate on those matters. If not, I will move to the next chair or representative to do the same. When it comes to the minutes of executive, the leader will present the minutes one by one, so members and the public are aware of each item. There will be no debate for resolved matters, but members may ask questions on those items. Again, can I please ask members not to repeat questions that have already been answered or are waiting responses. Members are able to debate any recommendations from executive to council, which will be followed by votes. So agenda item 6, we start with planning committee. Can I call on Councillor Knott as Chair of Planning Committee to introduce the minutes for the meeting held on 27th of April 2026, which is agenda item 6, starting on page 27 of your pack.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wish to present the minutes of the Planning Committee, which took place on Monday, the 27th of April 2026. And I'm happy to take any questions on those minutes.
I see no questions.
In that case, Lord Mayor, I so move.
Thank you. Can I now call on Councillor Moore as Chair of Audit and Governance Committee to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of March 2026. This is agenda item 7, starting on page 47, and I believe we have 2 recommendations.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to present the minutes of the meeting. There are 3 resolutions and 2 of those are actually recommendations for us to vote on. The first one is item 104, that the Audit and Governance Committee recommends that Council approve the additional amendments to the Council's Constitution Terms of Reference for the Joint Consultation and Negotiation Committee, specifically in the insertion of section 4 on quorum. So that's our first issue to vote on.
Thank you. Members can find that on page 47 if you need it. Do I have a proposer for that? Thank you. And a seconder? I saw Councillor Knott first. Or Waldorf. I now... Oh, no. Anybody... Do I move to the... I'll move to the vote. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That has been carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the second item is item 109. So the Audit Governance Committee reviewed the Code of Corporate Governance, which we do every year. And we have a resolution that the Audit and Governance Committee recommends that Council approve the Code of Corporate Governance for 2026 and 2027. So I will propose the motion. And Councillor Wardle.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wardle, thank you. Would anybody like to say anything on that recommendation? No, I will then move to the vote. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that has been carried.
Thank you very much. So the last item is a resolved matter that the Audit Governance Committee reviewed the progress in reviewing the corporate risk register. It's a resolved item, it's not for a vote. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes?
I see no questions. Thank you. Can I now call on Councillor Ruth Williams as Chair of Exeter Harbour Board to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of March 2026. This is agenda item number 8, which starts on page 53.
Thank you. I present the minutes of Exeter Harbour Board held on the 18th of March. I'm happy to take questions.
I see no questions.
I move minutes.
Thank you. Agenda item 10, I would like to call on Councillor Fulham as Chair of Customer Focus Scrutiny Committee to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of April. Sorry, I might need to put my glasses on now. My apologies, Councillor Rapper. As Chair of Strategic Scrutiny Committee, could you please introduce the minutes of meeting held on the 2nd of April 2026, which is agenda item 9, starting on page 59.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wish to present the minutes of the Strategy Scrutiny Committee held on the 2nd of April 2026. And I'm happy to take any questions.
I see no questions, Councillor.
Okay. In that case, Lord Mayor, I so.
Thank you. Agenda item 10. Councillor Fulham, as Chair of Customer Focus Scrutiny Committee, please introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of April 2026, starting on page 77.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I do present the minutes of the Customer Focus Scrutiny Committee, 19th of March 2026. Take any questions? Sorry.
Thank you very much. I was on the committee at the time. I wanted to know how the residents of Eton Walk will be able to have their issue progressed because the meeting heard their case, but there wasn't really a way forward.
Can you direct us to the, sorry, which point in the minutes you're referring to, Councillor?
110, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As I recall from the meeting, there was attempts by the officers to engage with the petitioner who wasn't present at that particular meeting, and it was specified in the minutes that members of the public can make direct approach to the council in terms of individual bid requests, and they can be handled on sort of more transactional basis from the officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any further questions? No?
In the absence of any further questions, I move, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. We now move to agenda item 11. Councillor Bialek, as Chair of the Executive Committee, please can I ask you to introduce the minutes of the Executive held on the 28th of April 2026, starting on page 99 of your packs.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Minute 123, 124, 125, 126.
Is this a
Sorry,
question?
just a question of procedure. I just wondered it'd be helpful if for new council you could say what the heading of the minute is as well, because it's very difficult to follow for new people, if that's okay.
It's in the packs. It's starting on page 99.
I generally do, Lord Mayor. when it comes to the main items. And
Yes, minutes and the declarations of
these sorts of things. But if you want to spend time talking about that, sure.
No, thank you. Just maybe for the main items, councillor.
So minute 127, Exeter Vision and Strategy 2026 to 2031, public consultation. Lord Mayor, this is a resolved matter. Minute 128, the Exeter Cultural Strategy 2026 to 2031, public consultation. This is also a resolved matter. Lord Mayor, minute 129, Chair's closing remarks. I would just like to make a comment in relation to, I thank a number of the executive members and also the officers at that meeting. I did not thank two councillors who were on the executive who stood in the elections and were unsuccessful, namely Councillor White and Councillor Vizard. I'd like to place, as I did, my thanks to them for their contribution and their work as portfolio holders and to the executive over the many years that they served on that committee and served their residents and this council. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Those are the minutes.
I see no further questions. Thank you. We're now moving to agenda item 12. Talking slowly to give Dave a chance to get to the podium. This is relating to the supplemented revised report that was issued to members earlier today. It relates to the overview of the General Fund Revenue Budget 2025-2026 quarter 4. I now invite the leader, Councillor Bialik, to remove the revised recommendations.
You see in item 2 recommendations there, 9 recommendations which I move at this stage of the mayor and ask the director to talk to the recommendations.
Can I have a seconder before we do that, Councillor? Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. When the council closes the accounts each year, there are a couple of numbers that we have to provide estimates because the information isn't available at the time to require to enable publishing of the papers. One of those estimates that we make is the amount that we will pay over to the business rate pool, which is operated by Plymouth on behalf of all councils in Devon, and how much we'll receive from the pool. And we make an estimate, and normally the estimate is pretty accurate and there's no material change. Unfortunately, this year, we received the actual figures from Plymouth at 9 PM on Friday evening, and they were materially different to what provision we'd made in the accounts, to such an extent that it was essential that we amended the report so the recommendations you make ensure that the financial position of the council is still acceptable. So that's the reason why the report changed. I'll now explain what the change was to you and what the impact is over the medium term for the council. So essentially, you will have seen in the original report that we had a windfall amount of around £3.5 million from business rates, owing to the fact that the appeals process for the 2017 rating list had been completed by the Valuation Office, and therefore the money we'd set aside to deal with appeals was no longer required to be set aside, so it could be brought back into the pool. Owing to the vagaries of the business rate system and the way it was set up by the government, that money is in the business rates collection fund, and you may have heard me talk about the collection fund. And for those members that are new, a collection fund is a separate fund from the council's main accounts, where all the income from business rates goes in to that account, and we make the payments out to the government the City Council, the County Council, and the Fire and Rescue Service. And then any balance and difference between the income and the expenditure is held and then released in future years to the relevant authorities. So the windfall is absolutely within the business rates account. Unfortunately, from the way that the business rate system was designed, it means that a proportion of that has to be paid over to the pool, and that's paid over immediately in the year that it occurs, and the rest stays as a big surplus on the collection fund account. So the City Council will absolutely get this windfall. Unfortunately, the windfall will be recognised in 2027-28. So in this financial year, it's not changed the overall picture, so the overall picture is solid for the council. We just don't have that extra 3.5 million now, but we will get it in 2027-28. So the impact of that is that we've had to make some material changes to the accounts that you are about to approve, and they are namely to amend 2.1 recommendation 1, the earmark reserve movement has moved from a transfer of £665,606 to earmark reserves, and the new figure is a transfer of £2.883,543 from earmark reserves. And this is as a result of, and with reference to Appendix 3, that we are removing the proposed new earmark reserve for local government reorganisation. We're removing the new earmark reserve proposed for budget resilience, and we're proposing the reduction of the transformation fund budget by £599,149. Essentially, those two earmark reserves are now no longer required, because in 2027-28, when you approve the budget for that year, you can merely simply set a budget for LGR of £1.5 million. You will no longer have the requirement, in order to balance the budget, of identifying savings of £1.45 million, because you will have this extra £3.5 million in that financial year. So the impact, by the time we were planning to use the funds, is exactly the same. It's just different to what we set out in the accounts for this year. So the other key figure that has changed, therefore, is in the funding section of Appendix 1, how we're funded, and that's that the business rate pooling stroke growth amount has reduced from £7,475,776 to £3,926,627. So that deals with the significant changes, and the reason £3.5 million is significant enough that we need council to approve the correct figures. In terms of the rest of the report, there are two key sections for members to consider because you're being asked to approve them. The first is section 10.11 and Appendix 4, which is the list of supplementary budgets that we're seeking approval from council to carry forward into 2026-27. And this year, in section 10.11, for those that impact on the general fund working balance, we've set an explanation of each of those supplementary budget requests for members to see clearly. The other issue relates to section 10.14. Members may recall, as part of the constitutional changes, we did a significant update of financial regulations. One of the changes that we made was that council would be responsible for writing off debts that were unable to recover over £100,000. And indeed, we have one this time, which we'd ask you to consider writing off. Significant efforts have been made to recover the funds, but we've been unable to do so, and it's highly unlikely that we'll be able to do so in the future, so we're seeking your approval to write that off. And other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Before we take questions, just to confirm, we're just taking questions to the officer now. We're not opening the debate yet. So please make sure that your comments remain as questions and save the debate for later. Thank you. So I missed your hand. So Councillor Ketchin.
Lord Mayor, page 114, bottom paragraph. It refers to the homelessness budget. There's a underspend of 1.2 million roughly. I sort of tried to make sense of all the detail in there, and it's itemised to, in my mind, about £700,000 of the underspend. And I was wondering if you could explain, if I've got this right, that there's about £500,000 of underspend that relates to lack of delivery of services. Could we have clarity on that? My concern being that there is a lot of rough sleeping and excess mortality in Exeter, and I want to know that we don't have an underspend on service delivery for the year as planned, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we'll do Councillor Terry's and then do those two together. Is that okay? Councillor Terry?
Thank you. I note in the supplementary budget that there's a £74,000 spent to support private place projects along with other life projects. Should some of this money not come from the private place budget?
Do I have any more questions at this point? For us to do them in threes?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. At the beginning, in the introduction, you explained that there's a delay in the receiving of the payments with transfers to the following year's accounts. So therefore, what we were due in 26-27 will show up in the following year. So what is the position next year? Do we get a situation in monies due in 27-28? In fact, don't become our monies anymore. They're in fact transferred to the remunitory authority. What is the position there? It is our money.
Thank you. Happy to take those three.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. If you don't mind, I'll answer Councillor Terry and Councillor Mitchell's questions, but I'll pass over to Adrian Pengelly to deal with Councillor Ketchin's question on homelessness. So, in respect of the supplementary budget for Pride in Place, as councillors are aware, Exeter was awarded £2 million a year for 10 years for Pride in Place around Wanford and Heavitree, elements of Wanford and Heavitree. This relates, Wipton, my apologies, spent it in the wrong place. This is part of a grant that was given to the council to enable the setup of the governance structure around. It was received just at the end of the last financial year without sufficient time to spend it then, so we're simply carrying that grant forward to this year to ask for your approval to spend in line with the government's wishes. And then in respect of the issue that's arisen, so members might recall, those members who were on the council last year, that I talked about the business rate reset last year and the changes in formula. So the business rate pool for Devon has been dissolved. So that element of it will not occur again. I am not anticipating now that the huge appeals amount has been removed from the accounts, there shouldn't be the same level of swing in the amount. So it would be highly unlikely that something would happen at the end of this financial year that would be so significant. But you're absolutely right, if something did happen, at the end of this financial year, it would be recognised in 2028 and 29.
Lord Mayor, thank you. Councillor Kitchen, thank you for your question. You're absolutely right, so your calculations are correct, that is the number. The service went through a considerable restructure during the course of the financial year in question, and there was that sum of money, there is that sum of money left available. It was available as part of the re-procurement of homelessness and housing advice services, and we're going through that procurement exercise now. So essentially that money there is more of a timing issue in terms of expenditure to the service providers when we reach that point. So your calculations are correct, but we needed to hold the money in relation to the service being provided.
Thank you. I now have Councillor Moore. The question was been asked. Okay, that's okay. Thank you. And Councillor Smith.
Got a question, sorry, about page 7 on the Guildhall. What actions are being taken to ensure that the Guildhall generates the income originally intended rather than becoming a cost burden?
Thank you. Councillor Ruffin.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question pertains to page 5. There's a reference of business rates due to empty properties higher than budget. So my question on that is, what assessments have been made of the financial costs and benefits for the council by letting out its empty properties in order to reduce its business rates liability? And in particular, I'd like to know about that for charities, cultural organizations, social enterprises, and startups.
In response to the first question, we talk about Guildhall Shopping Centre. So the Guildhall Shopping Centre had an issue last year, which won't happen again, where the service charge element was charged for the previous year at the start of this financial year, and for this financial year at the end of the financial year. So we ended up with 2 lots of service charge in 1 year. And that meant that, unfortunately, it didn't make as much as we were anticipating. It won't happen again. We have reached, or we have told Cushman Wakefield, our managing agents, that they must do 1 a year, because it won't just happen to us, it will happen to all our tenants as well. Those impacting particularly on those with a financial year end of March 31st. And therefore, they need to bill an agreed time each year for the service charge. So it's strictly one-off, and it just meant that we had a slightly smaller amount, but it's because there's 2 lots of costs in there, and we will see the benefit in future years where we have a more consistent approach. And I'm really sorry, the acoustics in the Guildhall are not brilliant. Could you please repeat your question?
Okay. It was a question in relationship to a reference on page 5, which says that business rates due to empty properties are higher than budget. And so my query is about assessments the council's made of the costs and benefits for the council by letting out its empty properties. And I want to know, in order to reduce its business liability rates, and I wanted to know that particularly in relationship to social enterprises, charities, startups.
So in terms of business rates due to empty properties, so the council generally has quite a low level of business empty properties that we directly manage, but we have some notable properties, one being Senate Court, which we're in the process of refurbishing for the council to move there. So when those buildings are empty, we have to pay as the owner of the property the business rates. And there's a couple of significant empty properties, mainly around 4th Street, which we're unable to re-let at the moment. We would absolutely love to, but because of work's being done to the Corn Exchange, and because of significant damage caused by a previous tenant, we're having to fix those properties before we can re-let them. to others. So you're absolutely right, we did. In terms of letting to social enterprises, we will absolutely look at any that come forward. We advertise all our potential properties for let on our website, and they're welcome to, with contact details for the agents. We tend to use agents to market those properties, but we have all the details on our website, in our commercial property area of the website, and anyone can come and approach us. And you'll see from the management of the Guildhall Shopping Centre that we have a range of meanwhile uses, and have recently successfully let to EIC, the charity, to provide a play area up in the top of the Guildhall Shopping Centre. So it's absolutely something we consider. Did you ask for details of how many we currently have?
Thank you. I didn't ask that. That wasn't part of the question. I was more interested in whether you've done assessments of the costs and benefits in total. So,
yeah. So in terms of the benefits, obviously there's a massive benefit in having a limited number of empty shops. In terms of the occupiers, it depends on how much they're capable of funding themselves. So often if you do a meanwhile use, you don't charge a rent to them. So there's a loss of income, but it's usually on the agreement that they will pay business rates, but not all social enterprises are in a position where they can fund. If it's a charity, then that's not so much of an issue because they get mandatory business rate relief, and therefore the income still comes to the council. If they're any other form of social enterprise, it's more problematic because they're still responsible for 100% of the business rate bill, and that can be quite a difficult position. Members who've been here for a while will have heard me talk about the issue of landlords utilising meanwhile uses as a way of them avoiding business rates, and it's quite prevalent right across the country in terms of that. And obviously that has an impact on the income that the council receives and therefore the services that we provide. So it's a balancing act between ensuring things are occupied and looks vibrant against managing the income requirements of the council.
Thank you. Do I have any further questions? Councillor Hughes?
It's just a quick request, really. I don't think councillors realise how much they're mumbling across everywhere, not just one bit. So I just wanted to point that out, if you don't mind, Lord Mayor, because I'm struggling to hear over here and I'm right at the front. So apologies, I know that I may have asked this question at the wrong time, but otherwise there's going to be a few of us who aren't sure what's going on. Thanks.
That's okay. I was going to raise particularly, I know it seems impolite to have your back to the director when asking a question, but particularly this side, the microphone is more important for the directors to be able to hear because the acoustics, as Dave said, aren't brilliant all the time. So yes, we'll try and make a better effort, Councillor. Any further questions? No, I will now move this matter open for debate. Do I have any members wishing to speak? Councillor Knott.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My concern is on recommendation number 4. I know that the reasons for it is explained in paragraph 10.14, but I'm still shocked that we have to write off £133,458 of our money due to this vessel not being lifted up out the way and ended up sinking and having to be lifted up at huge cost, and then the scrap value being a tiny part of it. I also want to just reflect down to the Exeter Business Centre's accounts as well, where you'll see on a much, much lower level
the same issue that we as directors quite often have to write off £4,000 here, £10,000 there in uncollected debts. I know that we have a policy where we don't use bailiffs and things like that, but I'm just wondering whether, as a council, we can perhaps address how we look at writing off debt and whether we should pursue it more ardently. In 10.414, there is a reference to the fact that it would cost £8,000 to pursue this further. And I just wonder whether, in fact, that additional £8,000 would be better spent. But obviously, that is up to debate. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak? I see, oh, yeah, Councillor Williams.
It's just actually in response to Councillor Watt's comments about the sinking of the John Eder. I think councillors that have been here for a number of years will recall that particular thinking where our waterways team were very, very quick and prevented a pollution incident. But it's those sorts of things. We've now got a harbour revision order progressing at the moment, and we expect to hear back from the Marine Management Organisation once we've responded to all the comments from the public consultation on that. And hopefully once we've got the harbour revision order, we will have more powers to prevent this sort of occurrence in future. So it is important for the protection of our waterways that we have the HRO. So yes, it's very, very sad and very unfortunate that we've had to fund this debt. And I am aware that officers have done their very, very best to pursue the person responsible, but we've been unsuccessful. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, and thank you for that point. I agree that it's important to do. I would just like a point of clarification. You raised a very important point, Councillor, not about the use of bailiffs. And you said this council doesn't use bailiffs, but I would just like somebody to clarify that is definitely the case, because I understood that in some cases the council would. And then obviously we're particularly concerned about people who might be subject to a bailiff order, who might not be able to pay their council tax. So I think it's really important that we are really clear. I'm not saying what you said is wrong, I just want to be really clear for the record. Do we or do we not use bailiffs? And do we in particular not use bailiffs for people who have outstanding council tax debts? Thank you.
We can provide that answer subsequently. Anyone else wishing to speak? Then I shall move to the vote. So we are voting for the recommendations 1 to 9 on block. Did you have a question? Or you just being... Okay, not yet. So I want to make sure, with new councillors in the room, make sure we're really clear, everybody knows what we're voting for. That's okay. So on agenda item 12, it's on page 3 of the report. Recommendations are 2.1, and they are then listed points 1 to 9. We are voting on all of them all together. Okay, may I please see all those in favour of the recommendations? All those against? Any abstentions? That has been carried. Thank you, Director, for that. And I believe it's you again. Don't run away. We are now moving on to agenda item 13, which starts on page 133 of your pack and relates to the 2025-26 General Fund Capital Monitoring Outturn Report and Revised Capital Programme for 2026-27 and future years. I now invite the leader, Councillor Bialik, to move those recommendations.
Number 2, Lord Mayor, there are 3 recommendations which I formally move.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded. Thank you. I now invite Strategic Director for Corporate Resources to present this.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So this is the outturn position for the General Fund Capital Programme, and as you will all be aware from budget monitoring throughout the year, we've had challenges in spending the General Fund Capital Programme. So again, at the end of the financial year, I can confirm that we spent 5.499 million of the capital programme. However, the Strategic Asset Management Board, chaired by the Chief Executive, is now operating and has fully reviewed the capital programme, leading to a revised capital programme being brought forward to you today for your approval for 2026-27. That capital programme totals £36.4 million. And I can say, last Friday, we spent more in one day on the 2026-27 capital programme than we did in the entirety of last year. So we're already ahead of last year in 26-27. Key issues I want to highlight within the report. So within the big section 10.5, expenditure variances, there is one that I want to bring to your attention, and that is the Parish Street car park. So members approved a budget of £75,000 for a temporary car park on the former bus station site. Working with Devon County Council, the costs for that car park have more than doubled, making it financially viable to deliver what we intended in terms of an additional income and cover the costs of setting up the car park in the first place. So we're requesting that members remove that scheme from the capital programme, and we will obviously work on bringing forward other options for the bus station site. The other key area that councillors must consider, because we're seeking additional schemes and additional funding approval from council, is section 10.7, which is the further funding requests, and I'll just highlight each of them so you're aware. So firstly, we've been successful in receiving brownfield land release fund monies to support the demolition of the Harlequins shopping centre, and that money will be a pass-through. Essentially, the funds will come into the City Council and we'll pass them on to the developer, who will be able to demolish the shopping centre and hopefully bring that scheme closer to viability. We've been here before, but unfortunately, you approved a budget of 175,000 to make good the solar panels on the Matford Centre. We went out to tender, and the lowest tender came in at £382,000. It's still a strong business case because 25% of the panels are currently not working, and this will bring them back up to full operation. But we're seeking additional £107,000 to deliver that project. We've been given additional grant funding from Devon County Council for disabled facilities grants, so we're seeking for that to be added to the already approved budget for disabled facilities grants. As members may be aware, the boiler in the Guildhall is no longer working and therefore requires replacement, and that will cost around £36,600. And then finally, we're seeking a budget of £100,000 to bring Market Street Car Park back into use. Market Street Car Park is the one based directly below the Corn Exchange, formerly operated by NCP on a lease from the City Council, so it's always been our car park. They leased it and operated it. Unfortunately, NCP went into administration earlier this year, and they've chosen to hand back the keys and relinquish the lease. In order for us to bring that back into use, two things have to happen. One, we need to bring it up to our own compliance standards. So we're seeking a budget to ensure that we can make it fit for purpose. Secondly, you will see Executive next week. We're seeking permission to consult on the new parking places order, which will bring it into our parking places order, so we're allowed to operate it. We can't just bring it back into our ownership and open it to the public. We need to follow a statutory process. So those are the additional requests for funding, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director. I see Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have 3 questions, if I may.
Can I ask you to ask one question, and then if we have time, we'll come back round?
Of course. My first question relates to Mary Archer's car park. So, a grant of 1.777 million. Not Mary Archer's car park, sorry, the Harlequins car park. 1.17 million. So can you please tell me how much is the developer contributing to the cost of this project? Is this grant funding all of it, or are they contributing some of it? Is the council expected to make any additional funds to the cost of this project, or is this grant going straight in and straight out? And how much does the council spend on developing this grant application for the developer?
Councillor Ruth Williams.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question is on 10.5, page 137. It says the district street lighting scheme is dependent on Devon County Council suppliers' timescale. I'm surprised to hear that we have responsibility for street lighting. I wondered if you could explain what that item is. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm just asking for confirmation or otherwise that the purchase of the new Murph building was completed in May, as indicated in the report.
Thank you. Happy to take those questions.
So I will deal with question 1 regarding Harlequins and the Murph, although I'm sure Adrian will want to speak about the Murph and perhaps could answer on the Queen Street lighting project. So in terms of Harlequins, the 1.176 million is a grant towards the demolition. There is no contribution from Exeter City Council towards that. It's entirely a pass-through of that grant that's received by us and goes to the developer. In terms of the demolition, it's expected that will fund the vast majority. Anything else would have to be picked up by the developer, not by the City Council. And in terms of how much was spent, it was a small amount of officer time. So our officers deal regularly with One Public Estate, who manage the Brownfield Land Release Fund, and therefore it was a very small amount of time. But as you can imagine, it's a critical site within the city. So our commercial assets team and Dean's team spend a lot of time working with the developer to cajole them into delivering the site. In terms of the Murph payment, it slipped to last Friday, but it has been made, and we are now in ownership of the environment. Are you able to? Yeah. I'm afraid we'll have to come back on the Queen Street lighting question to give you a full answer on that. I don't know whether you want to talk about the environment.
Lord Mayor, thank you. Just to add a little detail, yes, it did slip, but we did complete last Friday. We're very pleased to say. So we are now in possession of the building. We had already done some work leading up to the exchange of contracts and then completion in terms of timescales for both the building works that needs to take place, and some members who are here recall the presentation we made last December. So now we've acquired the building, there's substantial building works that we'll carry out to extend the tipping hall, so we've got some work to do there. And at the same time and in parallel, we'll be procuring the purchase of all the equipment to go into it. So this will be a new all singing, all dancing MRF building, as you would expect. So those processes are taking place, and we have consultants already engaged, and the procurement process has started. Most recently, I can feed back, as of this week, we have, I think, 8 contractors interested in providing the machinery. So that proves good market interest. So very favourable position at the moment, and clearly we'll keep members informed as the process moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I now have Councillor Michael Mitchell.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My one question, follow on from the Harlequin series we had earlier. It talks of an agreement in the wording in the document on 10.7. My concern is that once the site is developed, what assurance have we got that any development will then take place on the site, particularly in relation to your last sentence, which says it might be used as a car park. I already have 2 sites in the city centre ward we represent, which were cleared and have been cleared for some considerable time and no developments are taking place. So I'm worried that are we going to have a scar on the landscape in the centre of Exeter for some years, or can we build into the agreement with these people that they actually start developing it once it's demolished?
Thank you. Councillor Knott.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question relates to the fact that the car park isn't going to go ahead at City Point. Are you able to actually say what the quotation from Devon County Council was to provide vehicular access to the site? Because if it's that prohibitive, even for a car park, surely that could impede any other form of meantime use for the site.
Thank you. And Councillor Wood. Thank you. Councillor Pole.
Thank you. My question is about the Northbrook Park. So this is a park we're delivering in partnership with Devon Wildlife Trust to prioritise wildlife improvements and to be maintained as a peaceful and tranquil community space. A wild arboretum, which has achieved 96% support, and a strategic green link between 2 of our most important green spaces, providing a critical function for the movement of wildlife, and also green infrastructure for people. I see that the Devon Wildlife Trust is receiving a portion of the grant funding direct from funders, and could you just confirm that this project is delivering on schedule? Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I have 3 questions.
Thank you. In terms of the temporary car park, the Harlequins members will be aware there is currently a car park at Harlequins which the City Council operates, which we're going to lose. So we've negotiated in the period that it will take them to mobilise after demolition that they will operate, sorry, it's very clear, they will operate a temporary car park, but we will get the income from that car park. So it's a way of ensuring there's a continued use, a continued income stream to the City Council whilst they get themselves in a position to start the development. In terms of the cost, so it effectively doubled the cost. So our original budget was £75,000. It was coming in over £150,000. So there were a couple of things in there, but a significant proportion of that were the changes that we'd have to make to enable vehicular access in that. Once we identify potential alternative uses, it will depend on what that use is as to whether that becomes an issue that we will have to address in terms of that and how that operates as a temporary use, but certainly for vehicular access, they're requiring reasonably significant changes. And then in terms of Northbrook, in terms of Northbrook Park, we'll need to come back with an answer for you.
Councillor Reid, I have you first.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Let's draw attention to page 143 and to a different car park this time, to the Mary Arches car park. The funds allocated for the demolition of Mary Arches car park indicate that in excess of £1.2 million is to be spent from the Brownfield Land Release Fund. What assurances can be given that this spend offers value for money for the people of Exeter? Thank you.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, directors. I just want to ask about the increase in several of the budgets, and I am just wondering, Director, if you could confirm if many of these increases are simply because, I say simply, because materials have got more expensive, trades have got more expensive, person power's got more expensive. Is this something that basically is happening because it couldn't have been avoided or predicted? I suspect I know the answer, but I want to give you the opportunity to just clarify for us here why so many things are costing more than you originally anticipated.
And Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Both are short. So my other question is, the previous capital budget last year was prioritised on the basis of health and safety urgent projects. And I really welcome the Chief Executive's work to be able to move the capital programme along, but I want to know what's happened to the projects that have dropped off this list. And the second question is, what consideration has been given to the installation of an air source heat pump in this building instead of a gas boiler? So the council owns St Nicholas Priory, which is a grade 1 listed building, and that's had an air source heat pump installed and works very well. And so I want to know why a renewable technology is not being used. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
So in terms of the BLRF, the Brownfield Land Release Fund monies for Mary Arches car park, so that is government grant. The impact of that does not fall on the council taxpayer of Exeter. It's funding that we receive directly from central government and then will be used to demolish the building. In terms of the council, then the council approved the closure of Mary Arches car park and the proposed scheme has received planning permission to proceed. So in terms of doing what it was intended to do, the funds from government, it's absolutely in line with that. In terms of the cost increases for budgets, yes, generally things are increasing in price, materials particularly. We're having a number of global shocks that don't seem to be dissipating, and that's continuing to drive material prices, labour costs up. I would also say in this particular case on the livestock centre, there's two elements to it. It's the fixing of the panels, but it's also safe route access being designed, and therefore that can be quite costly and uncertain in price. And in terms of the air source heat pump,
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm certainly aware that the team evaluated the building in relation to the different sources of heat that we could use with a view to renewables. But I haven't got the exact details as to why we've ended up with a direct replacement boiler-wise. So I can come back to you outside of the meeting if that's acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. I have question from Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Yes, actually, just going speaking to the point that Councillor opposite me raised. In terms of assuring value for money, whatever the source of the funds, whether it's council tax money or government funds, I just wondered if the director could assure everybody that obviously there is an open and transparent procurement process. I think we carry out pre-market engagement sometimes, don't we? So, you know, we are going out to the market and making sure we get the value. I just wondered if we could have that assurance. Thank you.
So in terms of, there's two things. So in terms of Mary Archers specifically, and the question about value for money, then absolutely, we were successful in being awarded the BLRF grant before we went out to the market to seek expressions of interest. We made that absolutely clear to all bidders so they were aware, so everybody had the same information, and then we got a range of bids for uses of the car park, and the preferred bidder proposal came to council for approval. So absolutely, in terms of our own capital programme, we absolutely have to follow not only our own procurement processes, but in particular for capital, you're more likely to hit the UK legislative procurement levels, and therefore we have to follow a complete process, open, transparent, and seeking best value or value for money within that.
Thank you. I see no further questions, so I will now open the matter for debate. Please indicate if you wish to speak. Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Again, I'd like to repeat the efforts being put on in by the Chief Executive and the Directors to move this programme along. And there are many items to support here. However, I am really concerned about the level of effort and the level of subsidy that the developers of both Mary Archers Car Park and the Harlequins are receiving through this council. The developers of the Harlequins, which bring forward bedsits, also in the past couple of years asked the council to relieve them of the Section 106 obligation to provide affordable units. That was welcome in terms of the cash that the council received in lieu. However, none of that money, as far as I'm aware, was being reinvested back in St David's in the city centre, where we need truly affordable homes, including some of the brilliant council housing that council built. We could have that in St David's. Instead, the whole of Paul Street is going to be co-living, and also some student accommodation in Mary Archers. And we've spent time applying for up to 10% in the planning application was allowed to be student accommodation. So we've spent our time, rather than focusing on repurposing the money that was given by the Harlequin developers into bringing forward affordable housing in St David's, to actually applying for grants so that they can demolish council property, which we are looking to sell to them, to make it easy for them to bring forward this project. Now, we've been told that co-living developments are the most viable and profitable, so why are we giving them such a subsidy? Why are we not investing in council homes? And I'd really like to know how much money is the council going to receive from the sale of Mary Archers and the sale of the Harlequins, and will that money be reinvested back in the city centre to have affordable living here in our city centre?
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Do you mind if I remain seated? So I just, in response to Councillor Moore's points, I'm very aware as a city that we have a strong and well-respected research community, and those people are often on short-term contracts and don't necessarily have permanent contracts. So I think it's slightly unfair to accuse officers of making
way for more purpose-built student accommodation, because that isn't the same as co-living, and co-living can be really helpful if you're on a short-term contract and you need to move from city to city. I'm really aware that we have a finite budget, and I'm also really aware of just how much costs have increased in terms of materials and labour and so on. So I sort of feel like we can have a utopian view that we don't want to spend more money than is budgeted for, but we also cannot be in a situation where projects are not being completed because we're aiming for something that currently isn't possible or appropriate for our city. So I just wanted to kind of make that point really. It's an uncomfortable situation to be in, but it is the situation we are in. Everything is costing more money. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you. Do I have any further members wishing to contribute? Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Yes, I certainly agree with a lot of points that Councillor Hughes just made. These are complex brownfield sites. Just a reminder to everybody here of the importance of our green hills that surround this beautiful city that we live in. You know, most of us would prefer that we did not deliver our housing that's, you know, much needed by the city because of the housing shortages, because of homelessness, all of those reasons. We need housing in the city, and we do not want to build, if at all possible, on our green fields surrounding the city. And that is an absolute truth that nobody here can argue with. This is why these complex brownfield sites must be developed in, you know, within the city centre where at all possible. And the government recognises the complexity of that, as does our city development team and most councillors here. So really just a reminder of the importance that these sites are brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further members wishing to speak? Councillor, would you like to sum up? I see no further members' hands. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. I understand Councillor Moore's position and their dislike of co-living in this particular parish and or student accommodation.
Yes.
I just want to make my position clear. I've not been criticising so I'd be grateful if I'm not framed as being criticising purpose blocks. I'm just making a statement of fact that 10% of the co-living block for Mary Archers was approved as student blocks. That's a statement of fact. It's not a reflection that I disapprove of PBSA.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for that clarification, Councillor Moore. I fully understand that position. And can I just say that I disagree that and we're not going to get into whereby we take amounts in a particular area and identify it solely and wholly for that particular area. You made a lot of references, and you are the St David's Ward Councillor. Totally appreciate that, but we do not actually allocate specifically to that area. We generally take it as the city, and we always develop and fund things in that way. I'll find out, I'll ask the question, and I think we would all want to know what subsidy or how we are supporting any developer financially in grants or whatever. I think that's quite interesting, because I'm not aware we are, but I don't fully understand. I'm not on the planning committee. I don't have these conversations. But what I can tell you, now that we've had the planning consent for Mary Archers, the site was sold for 7.7 million, which is a very important capital receipt. And we've had discussions in relation to Clifton Hill as well. And when people want to start talking about what we've had to repay, that's very important capital receipt that we need in this council. And I'm glad that it's happened. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I hope people support the recommendations.
Thank you. I will now move to the votes. So we are voting for the recommendations on agenda item 13, which are on page 133 of your pack, section 2. And we are voting for those en bloc. Can I see all those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? That has been carried. Thank you. We're going to take a short comfort break, mainly to give the director time. He's had quite a lot of talking to do. So just a 5-minute comfort break, and then we will resume with agenda item 14.
I move permission to stand in front of the Lord Mayor of Exeter.
Okay. We are now moving on to agenda item 14, which starts on page 159 and relates to the 2025-26 Housing Revenue Account Budget Monitoring Report outturn. I now invite the leader, Councillor Bialik, to move those recommendations.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The recommendations are as they appear in item 2, 2.1, 4 bullet points. I move formally, Lord Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. It's over to you again, Director.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This is the outturn position for the housing revenue account, and as reported all year, there are no significant issues to report in respect of the HRA. That being said, there was a significant underspend in year, which was down to two particular issues. Firstly, in respect of repairs and maintenance, a new contract was awarded, and that took time to mobilise, and that meant all of the expected planned maintenance. So repairs and maintenance split into two areas. You have planned maintenance and you have reactive maintenance when things go wrong in tenants' properties. This relates to planned maintenance. New contract took a little time to mobilise and wasn't spent in year, but you will see a supplementary budget seeking to carry that forward to next year. So absolutely all the planned maintenance will take place now that the contract's in place and up and running. The second part of the significant underspend is down to a really good performance from the housing rents team in recovering arrears and improving that position, and also down to significant reduction in void properties. So you will see a number of supplementary budgets for revenue that you're being asked to approve. In addition, HRA capital, because they're heavily interlinked, so a better performance, 9 million out of 16 million spent in year, and you'll see in section 10.14 two further requests for additional capital funding, one relating to an additional amount for the land refurbishment project, and an additional £770,000 for the Wren's demolition project. This is down to the fact that the amount and cost of asbestos removal is significantly higher than we originally anticipated. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director. Before I take members' questions, can I please remind members to make those questions concise and to the point and remain to one question only. If you wish to ask a second question and there is time at the end, I will come back round to you. I see Councillor Ruth Williams.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to ask further information on the Wren's demolition. We were expecting it to start a year ago, and the tower is still there. And I think residents have been rather confused as to why there's been very little evidence of progress. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to know on appendix 2, there's a line which says HRA sales, which doesn't relate to the sale of council homes. So it was 912,000 this year unexpected, and previously 1.2 million. Can you tell us which sort of property this relates to? Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor, can you repeat which page that was relating to?
It's appendix 2.
Appendix 2. 175. Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Ketchin.
Lord Mayor, page 174,
relating to the HRA capital programme and the rent to buy sales. The question is the 4.8 billion of the rent to buy sales, is that directly funding new housing through the capital programme? And for a bonus point, do you know the number of houses involved, those sold and built, that plan to be built, if that's appropriate?
Thank you. Director?
Thank you. I'm going to address the RENS question. So we did anticipate much earlier intervention and demolition. We unfortunately met with resistance in terms of the telecoms communication operator. They've had for many years a mast, telecommunications mast on the roof of RENS. Unfortunately, they refused to remove them through negotiation, so we had to take a court process to that. That wasn't concluded until March this year, when we met with that agreement and the telecommunications equipment was decommissioned. So that essentially was the delay. And as David's mentioned, the additional cost, there's only so much you can see when you're surveying buildings. There's a huge amount more asbestos in the building than we originally envisaged in rubbish chutes, door linings, wall linings, ceiling linings. So that's why the demolition costs have raised or increased so substantially. But hopefully that's explained the time delay. Thank you.
So in respect of the other asset sales that aren't right to buy sales, the HRA has a number of properties and obviously garages which don't form part of the legal right to buy agreement with the government, and therefore when we sell those properties it generates a capital receipt, but we don't have the same restrictions on them as we do right to buy receipts, which have to be used on new property only. I don't know exactly which properties this relates to, so I'm happy to go away and find that out and come back to you. In terms of right to buy sales, again, I'll have to come back with you with the exact figures. I think from memory around 48 sales in the year. I don't know the exact figure of build, but it will be less, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Moore.
Thank you. My colleague was going to ask this, but he's not online from work, so I'm going to ask this on behalf of Councillor Banham. It was in relation to 10.13, the door entry systems. Just want to know how quickly this programme will be rolled out, because many residents who live in flats in the city centre are experiencing quite a lot of antisocial behaviour, because people are breaking in through the door entry systems that aren't working. So just want a reassurance that this will be rolled out quite quickly this year.
Okay, thank you. I can reassure, we met with the contractors only this week just to confirm the priority list of those areas that are going to be refurbished. We absolutely understand that there is a significant amount of work to be done across that door entry provision. Again, when we inspected, a lot of them had been repaired over a number of years, but had reached the end of their life. So we've got a much more significant programme of renewal rather than repair. So those have all been factored in. We've had conversations with the contractor now. So hopefully we can start sequencing the works. And just to add to that, I think, is the fact that we've recognised that generally the communal areas of those blocks of flats need to be improved at the same time. So things like decoration, bin storage, those types of things we will be looking at as part of a parcel of work. So we've received some of that feedback through the tenant satisfaction measure feedback, and that's really positive to see that people have engaged in those surveys and given us their views, and we're making sure we build that into a programme of work. So hopefully that's reassured you, and we should see some works commencing, I would imagine, in the next month, 6 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further questions. Therefore, I will move to the vote. So we are voting on... Oh, I do apologise. I'm opening the item for debate. Would any members like to speak? Thank you, Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just a general point, really, I suppose, about the accessibility of some of the documents that we've been given access to. With this one alone, the acronyms are really quite significant. So just looking through them, we've got RTB, non-RTB, SHF, FRA, LGR, HRA itself is not outlined in full until section 6. As a new councillor, this has been a bit of a nightmare to get my head around, let alone for the residents of Exeter. I'm just wondering, is there a way of standardising these documents so that we have a common way of approaching acronyms so that everybody can understand?
Thank you. You raise a good point, and officers will take that away. Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak on this matter? Councillor Fulham.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd just like to make reference to the language refurbishment. As long-term members will know, this is a long-standing issue, and it's been a great relief to residents in the area that there's been some progress on it. But it is interesting to see this additional budget, which obviously is going to fall on the HRA and the Housing Revenue Account, which will impact on resources available for other maintenance tasks and new builds. But the question really is, how's the progress of the redevelopment going? Because walking down Newman Road, I can see activity going on, but it seems to be quite slow and tectonic. And I see all the security works around there. Of course, security costs will be reduced if they actually gone and developed and completed the housing. So I know it's related to HRA. Perhaps the portfolio should come back to me with more of a time frame and advise the local members just about the progress of that, because we're keen to see the property developed to reduce any further costs that are going to be impacting on other tenants in the city. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Beale, would you like to sum up?
I'm summing up, thank you. We'll have to get back, that was quite a long, if Councillor Fulham wants to email me, I'll make sure we get some answers to some of that. But I hope you will vote for the recommendations. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I will now move to the vote. So we are voting on the recommendations for agenda item 14, which can be found on page 159, section 2. There are 4 bullet points. We are voting for all of those en bloc. Can I please see all those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That has been carried, thank you. We now move to agenda item 15, which is the Treasury Management 2025-26, starting on page 179. I now invite the leader, Councillor Biarrick, to introduce the item, and for members to note we are receiving this report as part of our statutory obligations.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The recommendation is to receive the report. There will be no vote or debate on the matter. So if anybody get your questions out now today, because he's going to tell us all about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So the Treasury Management Outturn Report is a statutory report we're required to bring to Council, and the purpose of it is to show how officers have acted in terms of Treasury Management against the Treasury Management strategy that Council sets at the start of the financial year. And I'm pleased to report that there's no instances where councillors have diverted from the strategy as was approved. The only other section I just want to bring your attention to is on page 181, where at the top you will see a little table in red, pink and white. And the top line of that is the bank rate projection from now through to March 2029, which is on a slow trajectory down, but you will notice the PWLB rate at the bottom, the 50-year PWLB rate, and PWLB is the Public Works Loans Board, which is part of HM Treasury, and it's where local authorities are able to borrow money from the government. You can see that the disconnect between bank rate and the amount that local authorities are able to borrow at continues and is expected to continue right the way through the next 3 years. So members who have been with the council for a while will be aware that we're having challenges with financial viability of capital projects because of high interest rates, and unfortunately there doesn't seem to be a solution on the horizon in the medium term. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do I have any questions on this item? I see no questions, so I will note that we have noted the report. Thank you. We're now moving on to agenda item 16, which starts on page 197 and relates to the update of Exeter City Council's companies, alternative delivery models and charities. I will now invite Leader Councillor Bialek to again introduce the item.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and this recommendation is exactly this, that we just to note the report, and once again there will be a debate, so if people have got questions on any element of it, I'm sure they will be able to answer. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
And I'm afraid it's over to you again, Director.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So this is our 6-monthly update on companies and related parties to the council. I'm pleased to say there's nothing significant of concern to report to members in terms of the performance of those companies, but there are 2 points I just would like to highlight. Firstly, in respect of Exeter Science Park Limited, the Chief Executive is retiring at the end of this month, and a new Chief Executive has been appointed to the Science Park, and we wish her well in delivering the objectives that we, along with the other shareholders, have agreed for the Science Park. And secondly, in respect of Exeter Business Centre, Council can expect a report on the future of Exeter Business Centre to either Council in July or to the Executive in August. We're just working through with the Constitution where the decision-making lies for that, and therefore, but a report will be coming to the next available committee on the future, bringing back the findings of the piece of work that Council approved early last year, and hopefully bringing that to a conclusion. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions on this item? Councillor Moore?
Thank you. I'd like to ask a question about Exeter Business Centre. And my question is, what led to the increase in turnover and improved financial performance this year? And also, bonus question, were the tenants involved in the Exeter Business Centre review? Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Smith?
Thank you. On page 199, there are comments about the Guildhall residential flats. I just wondered why they're loss-making and what action is being taken to re-let them quickly.
I see no other questions. You'd like to take those 2? Oh, sorry, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have a question about strata services in relation to I can see that there has been an underspend against the budget of 9,336, should I say, thousand. I was wondering whether part of that underspend relates to Ram's project to bring their exhibits onto into an online catalogue that I understand Strata are undertaking, and I was wondering when that work might be completed. Does that make any sense at all? There's quite a few bits there. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Do you want to take those three first?
Thank you. So in respect of Exeter Business Centre and the turnover increase, there was an increase in the rental charges to tenants last year, and in respect of whether tenants were involved in the review, they weren't formally involved in the review. It was review of the performance of the business centre and an identification of potential options for the future of the business centre, as opposed to looking at tenant involvement. In respect to the Guildhall flats, I'm pleased to say they are re-let, and therefore they go. Like with our commercial properties, like with our houses, sometimes when they're vacant, they have to be vacant for a while whilst we do works to bring them back into acceptable use. But I'm pleased to say they are now both either let or completely under offer and in the process of moving to that. In terms of Strata, I'm afraid I'll have to speak to Strata as to what the reasons for their underspend were and to get an update on the RAM project for you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Fulham.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just some references here to the time of writing the accounts not being published. Can I just have confirmation that they will be made available in the subsequent report so we can have a look, and we trust that the officers are taking due diligence to make sure there are no other issues. I just put that in the context of Exeter Science Park, where we had our loan wasn't able to be repaid and converted to shares back along, which suggested an element of distress. Hopefully that's all been resolved and it's progressing in a fine manner. But it'll be reassuring to have those actual figures produced at the earliest opportunity, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions? Thank you. Take that one.
So absolutely, those statement of accounts that are not appended to this report will absolutely be on the next 6-monthly report, which I believe is around September, November time. So yeah, we will definitely do that. I can just say, in terms of the science park, there was a recent shareholder meeting, and their finances are on track and remain on track.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, members, for those questions. I can confirm we will note that report. I will let Dave escape. Thank you so much. That was an awful lot of questions, and thank you. Your knowledge is quite admirable in being able to pull everything out for us. We're now moving on to agenda item 17, which starts on page 251 and relates to the SIL and S106 decision-making framework. I would like to invite the leader, Councillor Bialik, to move those recommendations.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There are 3 recommendations on page 215 going into 251 going into the next page. And I move at this stage and then
Seconder. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. I ask that the Director talk us to the paper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So this report seeks approval for a new decision-making framework for SIL, that's the Community Infrastructure Levy, and Section 106 contributions. It sets out some principles and a process which will apply to strategic SIL, but not neighbourhood SIL. Neighbourhood Hill will continue to operate under existing arrangements as part of the Community Grants Programme and Wellbeing Exeter. This report isn't seeking approval of individual projects, and the way that decisions are made on those individual applications for SIL and Sector 6 will remain the same. In other words, they will be taken by either Executive or Council. The aim of this new process is to make decision-making framework clearer and more transparent, as well as constitutionally aligned. And it seeks to respond to issues that were identified in an internal audit review and also following guidance that we received from the Planning Advisory Service. The main proposal is to establish a cross-party, politically balanced advisory forum to assist decision-making. The terms of reference for that advisory forum, which is likely to meet twice a year, is set out in Appendix A. The application and assessment process is set out in Appendix B. Projects will be scored by officers using a matrix that's set out in Appendix C. SMB will review projects for strategic fit. That means alignment with council policies, including the Exeter Plan and the Corporate Plan. Projects are then passed to the advisory forum for observations, and then a report will be presented to Executive or Council with recommendations for a final decision on that project. The scoring, assessment, the views of SMB and the advisory forum will be included in those reports to Executive and Council. So that's a summary of the proposal. The details are set out in the report and the appendices, and I'm happy to take questions, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, and I'd like to remind members that this is questions about the decision-making framework, as Director said, not about individual projects in themselves, so please ensure questions remain focused as such. Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, for the report. The only thing that lacks any definition as far as I'm concerned in this report, I'm totally unclear how the original list that we're all discussing comes about and how that has worked through any democratic framework at all, because we're talking effectively about discussing something that's been drawn and put together, but I'm unclear from this document how we as members or how others are involved in drawing up that list of priorities in the first place. So could we have some clarity on that, please?
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, and thank you, Ian. I'd like to ask a question about Appendix B and the application process. So this sets out that some projects will be developed internally by the council and others will be developed potentially by external organisations. There is no indication in the application process that this ability to apply for funding will be transparent, and there's no indication how procurement rules will apply. So I would be grateful if you could clarify that. And I would also like to know how this group is looking at potential projects, making its observations, are able to understand the progress of projects previously approved, and if they still meet the needs of the community or whether they need to change. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just drawing attention to Appendix C, page 262. Just very interested in the methodology around the scoring framework. So I suppose a two-part question, if I may. The first is, well, what methodology was used to come up with this scoring framework? And following on from that, why is community benefit and engagement only weighted at 5% when, for me, that does seem strikingly low. So I'd like to know a little bit more about the methodology and why community benefit is such a low weighting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Good Lord Mayor. So I'll take those questions in order. So the list of priorities is set out in the infrastructure funding schedule, which I believe is appended to the report. That's a document that's produced every year by the council in order to set out what is the council's priorities in relation to SIL and infrastructure funding. So it's something that is set out annually by the council. From that list of priorities, individual departments and external bodies are able to make applications for funding for SIL. And this process effectively sets out how they can make those applications. So it's simply a way of making that process more transparent and able to be looked at by members. I'll have to come back to you, Councillor, about the question on procurement rules. And I didn't hear your third question, I'm afraid, due to the acoustic. If you'd like to repeat that. Councillor, I didn't hear your third question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, with this oversight group, if projects are approved and they don't move forward, how are the oversight group going to know that they haven't progressed and that money might be available for other things?
So, as I've set out in the report, the comments and observations from the panel will be reported to the executive or council when it makes its decision on those individual projects.
But that's not answering my question.
Sorry, Doctor, I think Councillor wanted to know about if projects have been approved. How is this committee going to know whether they have been successful or not progressed?
So there is a regular monitoring.
There is a regular monitoring review of projects and that are being funded through SIL. That's reported quarterly to SMB.
And Councillor Reid's question.
Questions? So the questions about the scoring matrix that's been devised by officers. We've been using guidance from the Planning Advisory Service. We've been looking at how other local authorities have approached that as well. So we've benchmarked against those sort of similar proposals that we've looked at. In terms of the lowest scoring rating for community benefit, community engagement, there is an expectation that there is a level of community engagement undertaken in order to justify those proposals. The reason for the low scoring is simply that that's just making sure that there has been community engagement. So as long as that's happened, then that particular requirement has been passed. It doesn't look at the quality of the engagement. It simply says, has there been community engagement? And the evidence of that has been presented as part of the application.
Mike, just to come back on that, Lord Mayor. Yes. Thank you. So my question wasn't necessarily about engagement, but about the second part of that weighting, which is around clear community benefit. Just wondering why that's weighted so lowly. I understand the piece about engagement, but it's the benefit piece that I'm interested in.
In terms of that community benefit, I think that's a judgment that's made in the round in relation to all of the other criteria. So the ultimate benefit is a product of all the other criteria in effect. So does it align with the corporate plan? Is it going to unlock development, etc.? So it's a kind of catch-all really, which again is why it's a relatively low score. It's not a judgment on whether there is community benefit, it's simply a reflection of that process.
Councillor Baker?
But are you saying that if there is no community engagement, it still only loses 5% of its potential score? And so therefore that is weighting the public voice as quite low in our decision making?
So There is no requirement to undertake consultation when these proposals come forward. There is an expectation that there is engagement, and we would expect, as projects developed, for there to be engagement. I think that whether it's taken is the key thing. If there's been no community engagement, clearly that's not going to meet that particular requirement. And it's unlikely, I think it would be unlikely that the proposal will be supported.
Thank you. Do I have any further questions? I see no further hands, so we will now move this item to the debate. Do I have members who wish to speak? Councillor Knott, you were first up the mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I would be very much in support of this whole report, and I would also like the leader to know that I want to put my name down first for a place on this. If it's anything like the grants panel, where you have a series of criteria on which you base your opinions, and I very much see this almost like being part of Eurovision judging, because you've got so many different criteria to balance in order to be able to come up with an overall suggestion for projects. And I think that this looks like an excellent way forward in order to be able to achieve an open and frank discussion about the spending of large infrastructure projects, rather than the neighbourhood ones, which are very much localised, but for large projects which could very much benefit the city as a whole.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to thank Ian, Roger and the team for all their work bringing the support and the new framework to this council. This new framework, especially advisory forum, provides that collaborative, transparent and strategic process for the prioritisation of SIL. So, and those of you that have looked at the annual infrastructure funding statement, you can see on page 17, we've got some really ambitious and important projects to deliver. And delivering those projects will then help us fulfil those priorities that we have for our corporate plan, and also the ambitions of the Exeter plan. Some of these projects are fundamental to our growth and development as a city. So we need this forward-thinking, strategic approach to the spending of this important source of funding, and we need that cross-party commitment. So this is something that I welcome, and I hope that the council will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Michael Mitchell.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Whilst in principle I support the ideas behind this, I find the actual practice and the application is certainly not a bill of rights for councillors, is it in regard to their involvement in the process. Also, as I point out, in my own ward, we do have the neighbourhood SIL issue, and I'm pleased that you differentiated us from this particular problem at this time. But looking to the terms of reference, because the officer kept on reporting to the decision-making process. This is just an advisory committee. So let's first of all look on the advisory committee. It's chaired by an officer, not a member. We're talking about a portfolio holder being there and 6 members. So I'm unclear on political balance, whether the portfolio holder is included or excluded in that balance. As a member, if you are a member of this, you've got no voting rights. So you carry out little paper exercises, etc. In regard to minutes, etc., they just effectively just try to do a summary of the overall impression of what is given at the meeting. Unlike a planning committee, which I would say in recent years has been very good at outlining different points of view that are put forward by members so the public fully understand where you come from. So I am a little concerned about effectively the lack of involvement of members of this. I know it then goes through other processes to the executive council, etc. They are there, but I do not see this as effectively at this stage really meaningful. And it is in our hands to toughen this up, to give members voting rights, to say that the portfolio holder will be the chair, as they are in certain other planning matters. We have the deputy chair for delegated briefing and planning working group. At the stage at the moment, I feel it's a halfway house, and it's the wrong half that we're in. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
very much. I agree with Councillor Mitchell. I think there's a number of issues here, and I think it's significant that actually we've had a difference of view of what this committee is doing. So it seems to be high-level observations which are being referred to. I also would like to highlight that it talks about the committee won't consider site-specific Section 106 spend decisions. So I'd like to know how councillors will be involved in bringing those forward, because there isn't a process that I'm aware of for doing that. I would like to move Standing Order 13A, because I'd like to bring forward a couple of recommendations specifically for this document. First of all, I'd like to add a recommendation that the Advisory Forum receive monitoring and review reports. And my second amendment is that the framework be updated to include a scoring criteria for the mitigation and adaptation to our changing climate.
Can I confirm you're wishing to make an amendment? Yes. Okay, could you please then again repeat that amendment so that we can get that down, the two parts of the amendment?
So the first amendment is that the Advisory Forum receive monitoring and review reports. And the second amendment is that the framework be updated to include a scoring criteria for the mitigation and adaptation to our changing climate.
Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor. Thank you. We will now have a debate.
A point of clarification which will help the meeting along with regard to point 2 about having the scoring for the climate. I would be happy for that to be incorporated within the recommendation. Thank you.
So, Lord Mayor, the recommendation which speaks about the advisory committee having oversight on monitoring role would have the effect of introducing a new proposal into the motion for council. So that's not ruled as being admissible.
The second point is acceptable, though, and being accepted by the leader. Incorporated point 2, which is that the framework is updated to include a scoring criteria for mitigation and adaptation to climate change. Are we all clear on what has just happened? Yeah, okay. So that has become now the substantive motion, so we are still now on debating that substantive motion.
Okay, thank you. And thank you very much for accepting that second amendment, because as this has been a strategic priority for the council for many years, and we know that the impact of climate change has a significant impact on infrastructure and our communities. It is really important that we have a strong criteria for that. I am concerned that this committee, as I alluded to, will be looking at projects coming forward. It won't have any ability to do any scoring or assessment, because that will just say, well, this is what we think. And but it will not have any ability to see what's happened to previous projects that have gone along. The list that we are presented with each year, we have no way of knowing how these are progressing, if they're still relevant to community needs, and how they are going to be amended if they are not. So, and the other point is that the infrastructure list is put together each year and just published by the council. It's not something that we as councillors have ever voted on. So this is a step in the right direction to addressing some of the internal governance issues, but I'm really not clear that this committee will address the oversight issues that are identified in the internal audit.
Councillor Fulham, do you still wish to speak?
I'd just like to say I welcome this report. I think it's a move in the right direction. Reference being made to how far down in the right direction it is. I'm mindful of the percentages of different criteria, but ultimately I think it's a recognition really of the power of this council and a more collaborative form of decision making. I have been critical in the past of the way these funds have been used to prop up soil policy agendas that might not have widespread support. And so in that sense, I would challenge you not to welcome this coming through. I think the proof's in the pudding with this and the ethos of the actual bodies that are taking place with it. And I think that's where we're going with this, if we believe in it. I think we also have to strike a balance between process and efficiency of decision making, because we don't want to be convoluting and round and round and round in circles to the nth degree, working out what we're going to do with this. In the past, these decisions were generally made behind closed doors, in my opinion, and now it's going to be a more inclusive process which is going on. So I think we need to get the balance, because our officers are very busy people, they need to crack on with decisions. So I'll be supporting this. I welcome the changes that have been made. I think that adds positive texture to the process. We're kind of running out of time as a council. We've got just under a couple of years left to go. So hopefully we'll get this one right in spirit, because we're not in a position where we can do various iterations of this process going forward. But fundamentally, we'll be our support.
Thank you. Do I have any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Quite a bit was talked about the lower end of the scoring spectrum, but the upper end is actually in line, from my understanding, with the purpose of SIL. I know this includes Section 106 funding as well, but in terms of what SIL is legally meant to achieve, those high scoring criteria are actually on the nose, especially with the addition of climate change and adaptation being in there, because that's part of our strategic aims. So I think the higher scoring elements, which I think is the important bit to look at, those are on the nose. In terms of reporting of the conclusions meeting, I think one of the problems we can fall foul of in council is the amount of information, as has been mentioned. Actually, this is as making a subjective process as objective as it can be, and therefore there's clarity to it. And I wouldn't want to see what is a comparatively clear process buried in amongst comments and statements, which may well be political statements, when actually what I want to know is how well does any given application fit the criteria that we as a council value and set priority to. So whilst I acknowledge that knowing what happened in the meeting is nice to know, this group is there to advise on applications coming forward or projects coming forward. That's its role. In terms of monitoring, the paper talks about how it's monitored, and this group's purpose is not to monitor, it is to provide objective, as much as you can, analysis of what a project will bring to the city in line with the SIL's aims and objectives and the limitations of whatever the shape of the S106 is. So it's got to be in line with all of that, and this helps to make it a more objective process and to advise the decision. So for me, it fits. It's fit for purpose, and I think whilst we can tweak with it, I think that we have a danger of making over complex and less efficient than what's actually here at the moment, which I think is a great step forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, rather than having a 5% score for public engagement, whether that should be a necessary thing that allows something to be considered through this process at all.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Bialik, did you want to summarise?
Thank you. To reply to the debate, Councillor Knott, each group will make a decision on its allocation. Thank you for your offer. Please do not inundate me with offers of anybody else at this moment in time. With regard to Councillor Mitchell, if you look at page 257, 2/3 down, it tells you that the portfolio owner is in addition to the 6 members. So I know you've got a lot of papers to read in your job now, but so this is in addition to. So the balance will be, will not be part of the balance will be the balance of 6. And we've got quite a few committees where it's 6, so you can work it out for yourself what that balance is going to look like. Councillor Moore, as I said, happy to take that further amendment in relation to climate, and that is important. And many of the projects that we take as a fundamental thing. And thank you very much for pointing that out to us. I think it's appreciated. And I understood how you ruled with regard to the monitoring. I mean, I'm quite clear, it's quite clear that this is not an oversight committee. It's advisory. It's there to try to help. The oversight is the executive. The oversight is this council. That's where it comes from. That's where you can check up on it, find it. We are not devolving stuff to a little group who's going to make all these decisions on our behalf. We're not going to do that. And the officers bring forward, and they're not a cabal whereby they make decisions and they just dream up the latest thing on what they're going to do. They follow the corporate plan, which is our corporate plan within this chamber. We've discussed it. We have it. There's no doubt about it. It will be hopefully, when the Exeter plan hopefully gets approved, and then we've got some more stuff to go through, that will also be a guiding factor. So that's where it will be. And there will be issues, which if you look in the annual funding statement already is there, but they are not exclusive. That's what it says in that document. It's not exclusive. And that's why, as a local authority and councillors, we need to have a little bit of flexibility, because something could happen, as it did for the MRF, for instance. We had to make decisions, and it came to this meeting that we decided that we needed that MRF for a number of reasons. We didn't contract it out. We didn't do what a number of. We made a decision that we wanted that SIL money to go into that project, and actually, hopefully, some of the new councillors and those who failed, not failed, but didn't take advantage on the last time to visit the facility we've got down at Marsh Park, and maybe the new one at some stage, really ought to do it. And you can just see how those decisions bring forward good ideas for the efficient running of the council. And I can't accept that we would be asking the directors, councillor, to sort of knock out projects if it don't meet that. We're not going to do that. It is for guidance and for us. And remember, it may well be that we've gone through this process, that we've had the advisory committee say something, S&B have said something, it comes to this council meeting here, and we have the right to say something different. We may well say something different, and we must always allow ourselves that flexibility to say something different. I think that this is a process, and who knows whether or not we may need to tweak it. I know within the next, we've only got 24 months, as you say, Councillor Fulham, but if we need to change something because it's not quite working right, what have we done in the past? We've brought it back to you and we said, look, we want to make it work. We will make it work. I think it's an important part of the process. There is nothing to fear here. There's no conspiracy going on. Nothing done behind closed doors, Councillor Fulham. I don't want to talk about the subordinates now, but there's nothing behind closed doors. We're trying to be transparent. It's all there for us. The corporate plan, our infrastructure statement, local plan is what we're trying to deliver in this city. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I hope they all support.
Thank you, Leader. I now move to the vote. So again, for clarification, we are voting on agenda item 17 on page 251. The recommendation points there, plus the additional point, which was again for reference that the framework be updated to include scoring criteria for mitigation and adaptation to climate change. We are voting for these all together. Can I please see all those in favour? Thank you. Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. That has been carried. We now move to agenda item 18, starting on page 273, which relates to the appointment of members to council committees. I invite the leader, Councillor Bialik, to move those
Thank you,
recommendations.
Leader. As you know, Lord Mayor, we need to bring it back for some changes. There's been some changes which have been all agreed with the parties, and also to page 279 on the community grant panel, where we would, the Labour group appointed Councillor Darling to the community grant. We would like to replace Councillor Darling with Councillor Egley. Lord Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. My script says it's Dave Hodgson again. I don't think that's right. No, Simon.
I'm obliged, Lord Mayor. As members have heard, these proposed changes in relation to political groupings sitting on committees have been discussed between the group leaders. Members will recall that duty to allocate seats to political groups to reflect political balance of the council was voted on at the AGM a few weeks ago. Members will note particularly as Appendix B the changes in relation to strategic scrutiny. So a Reform councillor is replaced with a Liberal Democrat councillor, and on Planning Committee, the Liberal Democrat councillor is replaced with a Reform councillor. So political balance is still in place. Lord Mayor, as far as the other changes are concerned, they're for noting. So essentially, Councillor Darling replaced with Councillor Begley on community grants, and Councillor Kevin Mitchell replaced with Councillor Michael Mitchell on Audit and Governance Committee. Changes that we're able to make, you are able to make. I'm open to questions, members.
Any members have any questions? I see no questions. I move the matter for debate. Any member like to speak? I see no hands, therefore I will move to the vote. I please ask for all those in favour of the recommendation on page 273. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that has been carried. We now move to agenda item 19, which relates to questions from members in accordance with Standing Order 8. We have 6 questions from members. I would like to invite Councillor Hughes to ask your question first.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. With your permission, I'll remain seated. I would like to refer the leader to the motion passed in this hall on the 22nd of July 2025, which was written by me as an independent and Councillor Kevin Mitchell from the Liberal Democrats. As a community, the LGBT+ residents of Exeter are understandably getting increasingly nervous as the 30th of June deadline looms for the adoption or otherwise of the new draft EHRC guidance, which has come out since mine and Councillor Kevin Mitchell's motion was agreed. This anxiety is not being helped by the motions and challenges being presented to Devon County Council by ex-Advance UK county councillors who do not sit on our city council. These have already had a demonstrable negative impact on the LGBT+ community of Exeter and our very own Exeter Library. I am aware that as a city council, we have read the new EHRC draft, and as the leader will be aware, discussions are taking place at Westminster as to whether our Labour government should adopt this guidance. Can I please have confirmation and reassurance from the leader that as the current draft guidance stands, Exeter City Council is under no legal obligation to change the policy we adopted on the 25th of July 2025
irrespective of which decision our government chooses to take after the 30th of June. My understanding of the current legalities is that services which wish to remain inclusive and supportive of gender-neutral facilities and ensure trans men and trans women can use facilities comfortably and with dignity may continue to do so. Just because the guidance offers the permission to those who wish to be exclusionary and LGBT plus phobic, it is not actually requiring it. Inclusivity and dignity is the stance we adopted in July 2025 when we determined to make Exeter a safe city in all of our council-run services for trans, non-binary and intersex people. Will the leader please confirm that my legal understanding, as it currently stands, is accurate and therefore no further action needs to be taken by any of us, officers or members, regarding our current commitment to this agreed motion? Thank you. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And of course, we have empathy with the community on this matter, as I mentioned earlier on, in relation to a question about we're in that era of grievance at the moment. And what I can say, the guidance you refer to, it is currently in draft form and does not in itself change the law. As such, it does not automatically require Exeter City Council to amend the position agreed in July of last year. The decision reflected the Supreme Court judgment and confirmed that protections under the Equality Act of 2010 remain in place and that the Council would not implement changes to the policy or practice until the updated EHRC Code of Practice is issued. The Council will continue to operate in line with the law and will keep policies under review in the light of any final guidance or changes to the legal position. At this stage, there is no requirement for the Council to take further action, and we will review the position once the guidance is confirmed and published.
Councillor, do you have a supplementary question relating to the answer you've been given? Just that I want to be really clear that we're not doing anything currently unless the law requires us to. We can stick with what we're doing.
Yes, you know, my last response said that we will work in line with the law and we will review that once the guidance is confirmed. I'll just reiterate the last part. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cheltenham, may I ask you to ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Does the leader agree with me that the former bus station site presents an opportunity to support independent traders, start-up businesses, cultural activity, community use and improved public space, while longer-term plans for the site are developed? If so, will he commit to commissioning a feasibility study into potential meanwhile uses for the site, including but not limited to a covered market, space for independent traders and start-up businesses, cultural activities, children's play provision and enhanced planting? Given that the Section 151 officer has confirmed that up to £50,000 may be available to support such a study, will he further commit to reporting the findings of that study to the Executive, together with recommendations no later than December 2026? Thank you.
Leader?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And of course, I do agree that the bus station presents an opportunity to support businesses and for better use. And I've said that for a long, long time. Most days I have to look out my window and I see a space, Lord Mayor, which I think could be doing something. And originally I thought, well, it could be doing a car park, but that's too difficult according to the Devon County Council. But it was an interesting remark that somebody made. If we have problems in getting an order for this, what would be our challenges for that? But that doesn't stop us from doing anything else. But as mentioned earlier tonight by Dave Hodgson, the proposed temporary car park has been rendered financially unviable owing to additional cost requirements from the county council. And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, we're not going to pour money down the drain for something of a temporary nature like that. There will be a report to the executive shortly setting out the long-term plans for the wider City Point site, and I believe that's coming within the next month or so. In the meantime, a feasibility study into potential options for the meanwhile use of the site is something that we would look to implement. And that may say, well, why don't I give an answer? Even though the 151 officer has said that you could spend £50,000 there, we need to take it, and I think it will be part of the report that we will bring back on what we want to do. That's not a fudge, that's not throwing it into the long grass, that's saying it's what I would like to do, what I think we need to do, but we have to go through the correct process to make sure that we're spending the money and doing everything correctly, and that will be authorised by the executive committee. So I can assure the councillor that it is something that we would wish to do. Sooner the better.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question relating to that answer?
Yes, thank you. Can you confirm that there will be a feasibility study and it could be soon, before December 2026?
Well, time is running out, as you know, as Councillor Fulham said. You're asking me to commit. I think I've given you a sort of a pledge that in this chamber that is something I want to do. I do not have the authority in answering a question to spend £50,000. I can't just do that. You won't let me, will you let me do that? No, you won't let me do that. So I have to do it through the executive. It will be something I want to push for. I can assure you it's something that myself and the executive want to do, because we're all fed up with that site the way it is. We want to see it being put to some good use. It's in the middle of our city. We're proud of our city, and it's not the best advert we've got. So we want to do something.
Thank you. Our next question is from Councillor Wetmore, who unfortunately cannot be here this evening, so I will read her question out on her behalf. It is relating to air quality strategy and air quality action plan. According to the council website, there will be a consultation on draft air quality strategy this summer, and a draft air quality strategy and air quality action plan will be produced by the end of this month. There is nothing in the latest forward plan or work plan which covers this working coming to executive or council. Can the portfolio holder clarify whether all of this work is being carried out as delegated powers to officers, or whether councillors can expect to have sight of and input to the two draft documents before the consultation is launched, and whether the timetable on the council website is still correct? Councillor Ruth Williams, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I wish Councillor Wettenhall a speedy recovery. And it's very disappointing that she was unable to put this question to me directly this evening. I really welcome the opportunity to be able to update members on this very important piece of work. It should have been covered in the June forward plan and work plan. I think there was an omission, so that will be rectified, and a revised forward plan and work plan circulated to all councillors so that you can see the dates. The consultation regarding the Air Quality Action Plan and the new Air Quality Strategy will be launched during the week commencing 29th of June. It's probably going to be the later end, so probably the Thursday or the Friday of that week. The consultation will last 6 weeks, and following the consultation, it's scheduled to go to strategic scrutiny on the 19th of November, and executive on the 15th of December, before being presented to Council on the 12th of January 2027. As the portfolio holder, I've been involved in the work of the steering group putting together the draft strategy and the plan. As part of the consultation process, councillors will have the opportunity to participate in a dedicated workshop run by the company commissioned to develop the strategy and the action plan, which will be held in July.
Thank you, Councillor. I now have a question from Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Please, can an update be given on the work to prepare for a community governance review, and when will that be undertaken?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And in response to this question, and it's a commitment that I undertook to say that we would go for a governance review. Lord Mayor, I think we should change. I feel like Donald Trump, he makes these executive orders that he just does them right away. I can't do that myself. What I've got to do is I've got to bring these things forward in the proper way. And members will be aware that I undertook that we would deal with the governance review. I've now received advice from the officers, and we will be arranging to discuss this with members over the next 3 weeks.
Thank you. Councillor, do you have a supplementary question relating to that answer?
Thank you. That's a helpful indication of the start of the process. So when is the community governance review itself likely to be undertaken? Because we need to progress this at pace, as I have heard an expression during the council.
Yes, at pace, but in the right order. And I've learned a lot about it. I've had discussions with the team and the chief executive about this. We've got to do this in the right way. It's not just, it's something that we have to make sure it's right. We have got the added complication of LGR at the moment, although we think that all can be sorted. As I said, within the next three weeks, we will be bringing forward proposals of discussions with members and opposition leaders. Is my plan to have a discussion with the executive and everything else with the officers, and it will all be there exactly how we take this forward. Because for governance review, just to say, we've got a few new members, what am I talking about? This is about when the decision for LGR, Exeter is currently unparished. Okay, and all the 49 parishes and the 3 town councils that will be, hopefully, if our proposal is successful, we come in, have that local level of democracy at parish and town council level. It is appropriate, in my view. I would like to see, and I think many of you do, a similar mechanism for the city to be able to have that sort of decision, so we've got the appropriate representation and we're on a level playing field with all the parishes and towns around us. So it's a long process. We will go through it all with you, and we will make sure everybody understands what we have to do and what is in order. What I can assure you is that the team are working very hard on this, and I do know they've given a lot of time for it, taken a lot of advice. It is a specialist subject, and I think you won't be disappointed when they bring back their the way that we need to do it. And it will obviously come to council in a proper way to make sure that we hopefully can implement something here in Exeter in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ketchin, could I ask you for your first question? Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Does the portfolio holder agree that once the new SIL governance arrangements are in place, reviewing unused past applications under the new system?
Sorry, your other question is the first one. Would you mind reading that one so it's in the same order that members have passed?
The order. I didn't actually. Okay.
It's the one regarding recycling. Sorry to interrupt you. Thank you.
Okay, take a breath. Government's, Lord Mayor, the government's simpler recycling guidance mandates that glass by March 2026 gone and comprehensive plastics by March 27 coming must be collected from household doorsteps as an extension of and complement to current statutory domestic refuse collection authorities. What is ECC doing to ensure it meets the obligation in the coming months?
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Ketchin very much for his question. Yet another opportunity for me to be able to update members on some fantastic progress in our recycling facility. With the rollout of food waste recycling completed as scheduled, member colleagues will be aware that the current main priority of the Waste Service Management team is the development of the new Materials Reclamation Facility, or as we call it, the MRF. and that's for the city. And so my thunder's already been stolen this evening that, we actually spent all this money buying this building last Friday. So everything is on track, so it's fantastic news. But it's a massive, massive, big job ahead of us. I'm pleased to report that acquisition of the new premises where the MRF will be based was completed last Friday, and work is well underway, planning the procurement of the building works and the purchase of all the required machinery in order to commence working from a new modern MRF in 2027. Regarding the collection of specific recyclables, Exeter City Council has been recycling film plastics as part of its curbside collection scheme for the past 26 years. Paper and card contamination comes from glass being mixed into co-mingled recycling processes, and it's worth bearing in mind that the Exeter City Council actually generates a £1 million income from the sale of its recycling. So therefore, members need to be bear in mind that the council has no immediate plans to change the current co-mingled recycling. In other words, it's not planning to include glass in it because broken glass would contaminate the card. As this is technically more technically and economically and environmentally a practical method of collecting the majority of recycling across the city. We're currently collecting a high percentage of glass through the glass bank methodology. It's been independently estimated that curbside collection scheme will yield between 1% and 1.5% extra glass. So officers are currently preparing a number of costed option proposals for doorstep glass recycling for me, which are likely to be presented in the latter half of this year.
Good. Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a supplementary question for that first, based on that answer?
Well, yes, my supplementary question is I'm not quite sure what the first answer was, so maybe I'll just try and press for that. Are we going ahead with the glass recycling or not? It sounds like there's a sort of a report or a feasibility study going, but the mandate's very clear. And currently glass recycling is 5% of our overall waste. But of course that's measured by weight, and glass is very heavy and dense, and so therefore the bulk of recyclables is not glass. The legislation, or I should say guidance, is very clear, as the directors will know and the officers will know. It talks about contamination, it addresses that. And it's very clear that it's up to each collection authority to decide which particular way it goes about managing that problem, whether it's an extra it's segregated at the doorstep way of going about it, or if it's all put together. Now, there's nothing exceptional about Exeter when it comes to recycling. There's no reason I understand scientifically, socially, geographically why Exeter.
Councillor, can I answer your question, please?
I need to frame this, don't I? So I need to understand what the exception is that Exeter has. And that could perhaps be explained so that we can understand that we won't get doorstep recycling in the way that every other authority is mandated to have.
I refer the councillor to my answer in that, first of all, we've got a massive project of establishing a new materials reclamation facility. So that is quite challenging. And also, I've already said that the officers are proposing, are going to come to me with proposals for how we set about collecting glass from the doorsteps. There are several options available, and we have to make very, very careful assessment because Exeter is different to, for example, our district colleagues. We have to bear in mind the narrowness of streets, that for many properties that there is no space to have lots of separate containers. So all of those assessments are going to be made and put in proposals where we will assess what is the best model for Exeter, and also bearing in mind the current income that we're generating, which keeps our residents' council tax down And so there will be a balance. We will go for an optimum solution, but this is not something that you can just take off the shelf and do it tomorrow. It will involve additional vehicles, additional staff, and we've got a new MRF that we are trying to establish for full operation next year. So it's all going to happen, but it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Thank you. Councillor Ketchum, can I have your second question, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you for your patience there. Does the portfolio agree that once the new SIL government's arrangements are in place, reviewing unused past allocations under the new system should be carried out as a matter of some urgency to ensure transparency and fair processes applied, and to ensure the money, well over £1 million currently, is spent on Exeter's residents before LGR is complete?
Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, obviously, we've discussed at some length the advisory forum and its role, and that isn't its role in the format that we voted on tonight. However, as we've also said, there is potentially room to extend its role at a later date. So at present, the advisory forum won't be doing that. However, when it comes to just mentioning about unspent SIL, it looks like there's just stacks of cash just sat there unspent. But these projects, just going back to my comment earlier about page 17 of that appendix, these projects are big, expensive infrastructure projects that will need to be resourced with large sums of money. So where it looks like there's just money just sat there doing nothing, it's actually large sums of money that we are going to need to deliver some of these projects, like, for example, the Montford Hub. So, I don't feel that there's necessarily something lacking there. It's just the process that these things go through. As I mentioned, I am open to reviewing the role and the effectiveness of the forum over time. As discussed, it's not like a fixed process that we have to stick to. So, the answer is not at the moment, but, maybe in future that might be an appropriate role.
Do you have a supplementary question related to that answer?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the answer. That's very helpful. Will the portfolio holder then commit perhaps to publishing a report detailing how all the unused SIL is allocated, and then when it is proposed that this will be spent?
Councillor?
I think I'm going to have to come back to you with a more detailed response to that, but obviously we do have our infrastructure, we do have our SIL report, which we've all got a copy of, and that is obviously available to everybody. If the requirement is to have more regular updates than that, then that maybe is something we can look at. So yes, I will discuss that with the officers. I can't guarantee it, but I will discuss it.
Thank you, Councillor. That now brings us to the end of this evening's meeting of Council, and I now move to formally close. Please join me for refreshments afterwards if you would like, members. Thank you, and have a lovely rest of your evening.